Ah, are you
We're
enjoying
glad you're
India?
alive and well, Casey.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yes, yes. Please take care of yourself, eh?
But only my
Yes.
chairperson was worried.
Ah,
Honorable Apata and Casey, they
yes.
are looking for you here. They said I should
No,
have come with
I'm
you.
not from there. I'm not from
No,
there. Sorry.
no, they said I should have came with you.
No, that's not a country I want to go to or ever be in. So, not my country. Was never born there. No,
Oh,
you can
you will
tell
tell
them
me
they're looking
more.
for the wrong person.
You will tell me more when I'm back. No, they
Yeah,
said because of the support they have for us.
yeah.
That's what they said to me. So they
No,
idealize themselves from you.
no. I'm very far from India. Na? I'm South
Okay, I
African.
understand.
I'm proudly South African.
I like this country though, but I'll explain to you when I'm there. They are so reservative of their culture, which I strongly believe we must be very, very jealous of our country. We must not allow anyone to come to our country and do whatever they like. But we'll talk about it when I'm back.
No, no problem.
No problem.
Please bring me sorry, comrade.
Okay.
Bring for all of us.
the agenda flighted. Secretary,
Sorry, Chairperson, I'm trying to get hold of the presenters. They are saying they are struggling to join. With them now on the line. Thanks, Chair.
can we give them just 2-3 minutes to make sure that they join?
Please, Chair.
Okay. Can we continue, Secretary? Can we continue?
Open the Zoom link, please. Not yet, Chair. I'm still with them. They are struggling, Chair.
Police, there are some people still joining in. The system is slow. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah. Marcos can present in the meantime. Okay, sure.
Okay, let's continue with our meeting. Otherwise, we're getting even because because people must be released to do other things. They will join us as we continue. Let's put the agenda on the screen. The meeting is officially open. And I want to welcome you all, honorable members, and say compliments of the new year. Minister, compliments of the new year. We're meeting for the first time in a formal portfolio committee meeting. So I want to welcome you all, honorable members. I'm told Honorable Kamede is in India, but we're happy that he has joined, and he will assist us because at some stage we discussed about the possibility of visiting India. He will come and tell us whether it is a good idea to visit India. We're on item 2, honorable members. Consideration and adoption of the agenda. Can I get a mover for the adoption of the agenda?
I move, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Paul. Move. Can I get a seconder?
Chairperson, thank you and good morning, everybody. I second the adoption of the agenda, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Kakakilwe. Any alternative view? Thanks very much. We're on item 3. Apologies. Secretary.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning to the members and to the Minister and everybody in the platform, and compliments of the new year. Chairperson, I received an apology from the DG. He is bereaved and he is not going to be able to join the meeting. And also from the Minister, Tembisi Melane, she requested to leave early due to other engagements. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Can we get more details about the bereavement of the DG? I mean, he's one of us. Kosi?
Good morning, Chairperson. Apologies, I was saying DG. Yes, Chair.
Yes,
I will send you all the details, Chair, on direct message, if you
Alright.
allow me, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
We're on item 4. Honorable members, once more welcome. Once more welcome, Honorable Minister. And thanks very much for hosting a successful IBT summit. If we stick to all what we said in the summit, I think we'll go far. We'll just get reports at a later stage from the minister on how the implementation will go about, including the financing of the project. I had a lot of stakeholders complaining about accessibility to finance, accessibility to information, but I think at the right time, Minister will come up with an implementation plan that will also address all those concerns. But it was a very successful IBT summit. Last year, towards the end of the year, we received reports about Communicare not having a very good relations with the with the consent groups, especially those who are leasing or staying in their properties. There was a delegation that engaged with Communicare, but the meeting agreed that we need to have a full portfolio committee meeting to receive a presentation from Communicare, and we take it from there. This week was supposed to be a committee week. In fact, it's a committee week, but because of our program, which was a bit confused by the study tour to India, study tour to Brazil. And so we couldn't do oversight, the normal oversight that we are expected to do. But we're happy that there are members who attended the IBT. That is part of oversight. Let me not waste a lot of time and allow the minister to do her usual opening remarks. The first opening remarks in the portfolio committee this year. And then we then receive a briefing from Communicare. And then
the DM has also joined, Chair.
Okay, welcome, dear. Welcome, DM. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Chair.
I still don't understand the photo. I need a thorough explanation of the photo, Deputy Minister. Thanks very much. Honorable Minister, we're in your hands.
Thank you very much, Chair. And good morning once more to honorable members. And compliments to all of us. Chair, you correctly indicated is our first official meeting at the portfolio. Of course, we did meet during the summit. Good morning, DM, and good morning to our technical team led by the DDG. Chair, thank you very much for the invite. We had had a discussion earlier on in one of our briefings where you did indicate the portfolio is seized with the matters in relation to Communicare, and we did make an undertaking that we will come as a department as well at the opportune time when the portfolio is ready to engage on the matter. Chair, I must also indicate that we unfortunately will not be having DG in attendance. He is bereaved as we were busy in attendance on day one of the summit. He received the message that his aunt passed away, and but he was still able to come to day two, though missed the dinner just to assist the mother to start with the preparations. I did get a briefing, and DDG will be putting a departmental input in terms of the profiling and the offers of accommodation, in terms of our legal and policy framework, and in the main, the risk and challenges after you had given an indication that this is one of the issues we may want to deal with. And obviously, we'll undertook a bit of some investigations also as a department, and there are still some forensic work that is still underway, which is really to determine how the properties were acquired, because there's a variety of allegations, even in terms of funding in relation to the Housing Act. In the main, Chair, I would want to listen closely to the presentation by our colleagues and community members from Communicare with the understanding of how could we be able to resolve this. But it comes, Chair, at the time where we really need to deal with the issues broadly than Communicare in terms of the 30, 40 years challenges and even beyond in terms of the ownership of properties. When the time permits, Chair, obviously not today, we did make an indication that we would like to come back to the portfolio and say, we have made a commitment to use Mawika as an example of how we could try to resolve the issues. And we do believe we are halfway there. Hlano has also started in the Free State. Chair, it's a lot of challenges, but we will be able to showcase what we have done or what we are doing and what are the IGR challenges that we have, but with the solutions that we are proposing. I've already received the response from the Northwest Board and what they think we need to do. We have already streamlined with the City of Tshwane, and I believe that format is what we could be able to use with the Western Cape, not only dealing with Communicare, because there's quite a number that relates to relatively the same challenges across the Western Cape. Chair, without any much waste of time, thank you very much for allowing us to be in attendance and to try and provide solutions to the communities that we have taken a responsibility of serving. Thank you very much, Chair, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Minister. And I can tell you, taking from what happened at IBT, where a number of stakeholders who attended seemed to be having grievances. Your plate is going to be full, but we have confidence in you and your team that together we'll be able to deal with these issues. Up to so far, we're happy with how we are moving, with the commitment from yourself and the department led by the DG, that everything that we try to submit, seeking for solutions, your team always does its best to make sure that people receive the services. We really want to thank you for your commitment and the commitment of your team. Thanks very much. Without any waste of time, let's allow a representative of Communication Social Housing to present to us. I don't know who's presenting. I'm not sure whether they've managed to join. Then after that, we will hear from the DDG. I see DDG Dumalisile. I don't know whether she's the one who will be presenting. I guess she's the one. But let's listen to a representative of Communicare first.
Good morning to the portfolio community. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, can hear you.
Yes, my name is Makosi Gubega. I'm sitting here with my colleagues, Antha, our CEO, Noma, and Nazir. Antha will be taking us through the presentation for the morning. So I'll be sharing my screen now. Okay. Can the host allow me to share my screen, because it seems
Sure.
that
You can now.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. And good morning, Minister Simelane. I heard that there's a DM present. I can't see the meeting participants, but good morning to the DM also and the other honorable members of the committee. Thank you for your time and for allowing us to present to you. We prepared a presentation which incorporates what we shared with some of the committee members in December, as well as some additional information which the committee had asked for at the time. So if you look at the agenda, I will talk about
It's not moving.
it doesn't seem to be moving on
Our side. Maybe unshare, reshare.
on the screen.
Share and reshare.
Oh, don't show it then. So what I will go through, when our meeting ended the last time with the committee asked what should it be telling people, and also asked what should it be telling the community, I mean. And when we received the information from the committee, the invitation had said, one invitation said, how could the committee be assisting?
Sorry for interruption. Can we have
Yes.
the presenter? Can we have the camera focusing on the presenter?
Chair.
It is focusing on Makosi. Yeah.
We're changing it.
Yeah, now we can see you. Thank
But
you.
we just get to where we can see the presentation. If you can then allow me to pause. Where is it now, Makosi? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then can you move to the next slide?
For some reason, when we are in Zoom here, it is not changing the slides. Are you stuck on our introductory page? The cover
Yes.
page?
Yes.
Yeah. It's not moving here.
Maybe let's have send it to the secretary to assist, or to Kosi.
Or wait, how do we do? Okay, there. I'll just do stop share. Maybe Koliswa, if you could share from your side, would that be easier? I don't know.
Secretary.
Okay, let me try and share it from my side.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I will just say next slide every time you need to click. So for now, you can go to the next one. As Makosi mentioned, I'm Anthea Houston. I'm the CEO for Communicare. Makosi is our general manager responsible for marketing and communications and all our corporate services. And Noma Africa, Makwele is responsible for our social development program, which is our Vula Matuba Empumelelo program. And with me also is Nazia Po, our legal intern. So in the presentation, I'll talk about the support that's needed. I'll talk about the profile of the tenants that are facing potential eviction or who are not paying. And I'll talk about Communicare. We can go to the next slide and then the next one as well. This slide now is dealing with the tenants. The support we need. And firstly, I want to say that the call for an investigation into us first arose in 2018, and various branches of government met without us, the SHRA executives, the Department of Human Settlements nationally, the Department of Human Settlements provincially, people from the Human Settlements Office in the city of Cape Town, all met, in fact, at the provincial legislature in Cape Town, and prepared a report which was given to the tenants who had complained. Many are these very same tenants. That report, if you do not already have it available from you, was written on behalf of all those branches and given to the people who had complained, and it was authored by the department or authored under the provincial government's letterhead, but I can share that report with you should you need it. And that report had said the very same things we have been saying all along, that we have only a small number of projects which are regulated as social housing, which fall under the regulation of the Social Housing Regulatory Authority. And that tenants generally have recourse in the law through the rental housing tribunals, and also they are protected from illegal eviction through the courts and the PI Act, which the government had introduced to protect people from illegal eviction. And so those directions and other details were provided in that report. Evidently, it didn't satisfy the tenants who are disgruntled, and various other things occurred. But in 2020, Minister Sisulu, who was then Minister of Human Settlements, instructed the Social Housing Regulatory Authority, the SHRA, to institute a forensic investigation. As we sit here today, Chair and Minister, we are still waiting since 2020 to be given opportunity to properly input into such an investigation. We are still waiting since 2020 for the outcomes of such investigation. And what that has meant is that many people who believe that they have predetermined the outcomes of the investigation have stopped paying their rentals. And this has generated the problem we have today, or it's compounded the problem we have today. So many of the people who are seeking support from you now are people who have not paid their rent for as many as 5 years, and who are living rent-free, even though they have lease agreements, many, not all. So what would be necessary, I think, or useful help for us from the committee would be, in the event where tenants are facing eviction because they can no longer service their rental agreements, and where the court has listened to their representations in court, and the court has found it just and equitable that an eviction occurs. In the event that these are vulnerable people with no incomes, there is a responsibility from the municipal government. This is what the Constitution says. The responsibility rests with the municipal government to provide alternative housing for people who are going to be vulnerable and rendered homeless. I think the committee could assist us in making sure that the municipal authority provides the alternative housing it is supposed to provide to people who are vulnerable. That's number one. The second thing is that we are often asked by people in political office why we cannot just continue keeping tenants with no incomes. The reality is that we do not receive operating grants from you, the government, nor do we receive donations from anyone else. So the way we cover the costs of doing what we do is through the collection of rentals. We have a part of us that makes money, and the part of us that makes money enables us to build more affordable and more social housing. It enables us to give people lower rentals than perhaps what. Please don't scroll. Please go back to that slide. I'm still talking about the support needed. So the third bullet there is that to the extent to which anyone in the state thinks that private actors, non-profit organizations like ourselves who are not part of government, not receiving money from taxpayers, to the extent to which you think we should keep people who are vulnerable with no incomes. Perhaps you could then get involved with helping us find people to sponsor such people, because we do not have sponsors for them, and we do not have sponsors of any kind. And then lastly, I think to the question of what should be told to tenants while this investigation continues, I would appeal to you, please, to encourage tenants to continue honoring their contracts, the leases they have entered into. The law says that even if you are complaining about your landlord, you are supposed to honor your rental. And those are the rules, because if a person stops paying rent, then it stands to reason that their lease is going to be cancelled and they will then face eviction. And where tenants have not paid rent for years and years, no matter how vulnerable they are, the courts cannot order property owners to keep them. They can only order that the city, the local authority, must provide them with alternative accommodation. And so I appeal to you that you encourage tenants who are awaiting eagerly the outcomes of these investigations, that they continue to honor their contracts so that they avoid the scenario of them being blacklisted, of them facing eviction. This is important because even if they went to the rental housing tribunals in the country, they would get the same message. I think also some people have genuine problems paying. They've fallen on hard times. They make arrangements with us to pay different values, not what their lease was contracted for. And in those instances, I would also encourage you to tell tenants to keep up the arrangements they make. And where they cannot maintain the arrangements that they've made, that they keep communications open with us as their landlord. The other thing I would say you could be doing, and messages you could be giving, we give tenants in certain circumstances, vulnerable tenants especially, we may have offered them alternative accommodation that is more affordable for them. When they say they cannot keep up a rental that perhaps they had originally agreed to, perhaps years prior when circumstances were different for them. Oftentimes people will decline the alternatives we offer them, and then they end up facing potential eviction because they're not paying their rent, or they're short paying their rent and they're not able to get back into good standing. So you could also be encouraging the tenants to consider and take up the offers of alternative accommodation when we make these offers available to them in our property portfolio. And then many of our tenants are using very dodgy attorneys, people who do not understand the law, who do not understand the PI Act, who play games in the court, frustrate the court processes, or people who take their money and disappear, withdraw from their cases at the 11th hour. So I would also say encourage people to use the actual free legal services which the state has made available to people who are vulnerable through Legal Aid SA, where there are a whole panel of competent attorneys representing people. And that would close up the space for all this dodgy attorneys to take advantage of people. And then I think the other thing that we see tenants doing, which we would encourage you to do, we would encourage you to message to them, is when they are in court facing a potential eviction, often people don't cooperate with the court. They are expected to come to the court and put their circumstances in front of the court. If you have a disabled child, if you have no income, these are information the court needs in order to protect a person. Often people, and with using their dodgy lawyers, they don't share the information with the court, and so they may have rulings against them that don't take into account their personal circumstances. This is also true for us, that often people are not sharing their circumstances with us. They're not telling us the truth, or they're not wanting to share information. So we're then not able to make accommodations or to offer the alternatives that we have that could suit them. So these are some of the support things that you could be making available to help these tenants who are in this dire situation at the moment. Now I want to talk about, to move on to the next section, which is profiling the tenants. You can click to the next 2 slides. So this next slide is going to talk about the tenants. You can continue forward. We have over 3,400 tenant households. That's over 10,000 people living with us. I want to say to the committee that our tenants are not generally disgruntled with us. 95% of our tenants are in good standing, paying their rent, looking after the property and living in harmony with their neighbors in over 30 properties that we own and manage. But there is a percentage of tenants who are not paying. Any landlord will have these. In reality, we have had over the years more than a normal amount of defaulters, and this has largely been because of this ongoing investigation that has not ended. We are now in the 6th year of an investigation with no outcomes, and that is causing people to fall deeper and deeper into arrears with their rent. What this has done for us is that we have had, on average, 35 million rand per year not being paid over the last 5 years while this investigation is going on in bad debts. And this is absolutely and completely unsustainable for us. And it began as an intentional rent boycott, not as people who couldn't pay. It began as an intentional rent boycott, and there's a lot of information available about this. You can go and read, watch the carte blanche expose about what happened. There's, you know, this thing didn't start with an investigation, but it's being compounded by the fact that the investigation has had no outcomes for 5 years. And because we have been coming up short by as much as 35 million rand over the years, each year, it's forced us to do a number of things. It's forced us to go to the courts to ask for evictions. In the first year, when people didn't pay, we didn't go and seek eviction at court. We went to the rental tribunal and we tried to, the tenants were heard at the rental tribunal, and we put our side, and there were findings of the rental tribunals. However, many of the tenants, the vast majority of them, did not honor the rulings of the rental tribunal. And that put us in a situation where we then had no choice but to come and take the next step of going to court. And the fact that we're coming up short every year with these funds, these are funds that would be used to maintain property. These are funds that would be used to build more housing, more affordable and more social housing. And these are funds that are not being received. These are funds that would be used to maintain the very upkeep of the properties that people are living in. It also resulted in us having to reduce the amount of concessionary rentals we are giving our tenants, all our tenants, because when everyone was paying their rent, we were able to take some of the money that was coming in as rent and give more vulnerable tenants, particularly our SASSA pensioners, were getting deeper grants. We had to reduce the extent of the grants to SASSA pensioners because we were being coming up short every year with rent, number one. The other thing we've had to do is a lot of the properties that we've owned that had SASSA pensioners in, we have given over to NGOs that run old age homes, and we can no longer keep those. So where we used to have about 7 of those properties, we only have 2 now. We've donated them to organizations like Abbeyfield, like Padisa, and so on, who are more focused on housing only the elderly. And it's also caused us to take a decision because we cannot control the pace of an investigation being carried out by government, but we are experiencing the harsh impact of it. And so it's forced us to take tough decisions, which included selling off some properties. Besides those donations that I mentioned now, other properties we have sold. because we cannot continue to carry the losses being generated in those properties where no one is paying, and where the law expects us to continue to look after the property despite the fact that we're not collecting rent year after year. So at this point in time, Chair, we have 301 tenants who are in various stages of handover for not paying their rent, either in full or short. Not all of this is dire straits. I will show you in the next slide that some of them are in a process with us to get back into good standing. Then we have 38 eviction orders in hand, which have already been issued by the court, which is waiting for the sheriff of the court to implement. You may click to the next slide. And I'm going to talk here about the eviction orders first, the 38 eviction orders. These are already issued. Now, I want to clarify that for us to secure an eviction order, we have to apply to court. We will have to show that there is grounds for an eviction. In these cases, the grounds would almost in 100% of cases have been that the person is not paying their rent. There may be 2 or 3 cases where someone has been violent on the property, and that is the reason for the eviction, because they're a threat to safety of people. But generally, these people are people who have not paid rent either in full or in part. Now, paying short rent doesn't necessarily mean we hand you over. It depends if it is a long-standing pattern or whether it is just a short-term problem happening in the household. So that's why I say we will engage with households, understand why there's a short payment or why there's no payment in a particular month, and whether they can remedy the situation. When we get to court, the tenant, of course, has a right to defend themselves. Most of our tenants are defending themselves in court with attorneys. Some do use legal aid, the legal aid essay provided by the government. Many are paying lawyers where they could be getting a free service from legal aid. Many are paying lawyers instead. And these lawyers are generally lawyers who do not actually understand the provisions of the PI Act very well. But in any event, what the courts are then doing, they have a duty to establish whether there's vulnerability in the household. They will invite the tenants to make submissions about their vulnerability. They will invite the city of Cape Town, all our properties in Cape Town. They will invite the city of Cape Town as the municipality to provide a report on alternative housing being provided to these tenants if they are going to be vulnerable and homeless. Not everyone who is facing an eviction is going to be vulnerable and homeless. I don't know the employment of these 38 people, 38 households that I'm telling you now, but I'll give you an example. During the preceding years, we evicted people who work for Parliament, not used to work, current employees of Parliament, current employees of the Department of Education, current employees of the South African Police Services, current employees of the Department of Health. These are people with salaries, with housing allowances, who have not paid their rent. So not every household who is not paying rent can't pay rent. As I'm saying, many of our tenants have been part of these tenants. Remember, this is just a small group of our thousands of tenants who are generally happy. But amongst these tenants that we are discussing today, that is of interest to you, are tenants who have decided to intentionally boycott their rentals. Amongst them are those. And so they may well not make presentations to the court about vulnerability, because actually they're not vulnerable. Actually, they have incomes. They just don't want to pay rent to us because they believe that they should be the owners of this property, or they believe that they have listened to leaders in their communities, or they've listened to certain politicians who have told them that they ought to own these properties and they need not pay. So this is why you may have eviction orders having been issued even against households where there's vulnerability. They also may have an offer from the city of Cape Town along with the eviction order of alternative accommodation, but they don't want to take the offer, or the offer from the city is considered by them inadequate for their needs, and it may well be inadequate for their needs. We can't influence what the city does, but that's why I said in my opening remark, you, the Portfolio Committee for Human Settlements, you could be engaging with the city around what it is offering people who face eviction, because it has a constitutional duty to provide them with alternatives when they face eviction and they're going to be vulnerable. So of these 38 eviction orders that we have in hand, 14 of these households have got minors in them. And there is one household which we are assisting to find an alternative accommodation for, even though there is an eviction order that the sheriff could have issued already. But because there is a very sickly child in the household, we are trying to assist the household to make arrangements so that the child's health is not further jeopardized. Then of these 38 orders, 7 households have older persons. This may overlap with a household with minors. And there's one person there that we are assisting who actually needs to be in frail care, and our social workers are assisting for them to move to frail care. So again, there's an example of that. 18 of these 38 are in the social housing that is regulated by the SHRA. As the Social Housing Act and regulations require social housing organizations who run and manage social housing, we are required, and we have to report. We have to report on our payments, on collections. We have to report on our handovers. We have to report on the fact that tenants are not being allowed to live there for free. This is required. We have to take action. Otherwise, we are out of compliance with the social housing regulations. So we have to actually proceed with social housing tenants to eviction when they do not pay. And I want to give you an idea of how long ago some of these things have been issued. 4 of these orders were issued over 6 months ago, 7 of them as far back as a year ago. So people have had also time to find alternatives. But these are the 38 that say for the 2 where we are assisting, where the sheriff of the court will proceed and effect evictions for these 36 households. Now I want to talk about the tenants who are not paying their rent already, who haven't yet been had eviction orders issued. That's on the next slide, please. So there are 301 tenants who we have handed over. By this, we mean our lawyers are now engaging with them. We, as the property manager, we have spoken to them. We have tried to support or assist. Those efforts have not worked. We would perhaps already have said to someone, why don't you move over here? It's cheaper. You will be able to afford better. When I say over here, another property in our complexes, for example, another apartment, to downsize or just to change to a different location for us in our portfolio where the rent might be cheaper. Tenants might have declined that. So we have about 189 tenants who, of this 301, we have now handed over to the lawyers. The first step the lawyers does is again trying to talk to tenants before we go to court. So about 189 of the 301 are in a process where they are talking with the lawyers, either about relocating to a different space or trying to pay up some of the arrears. Perhaps someone, by the time we've handed them over, they now have gotten a job and they're saying, look, I'll start paying from tomorrow. So they are with the lawyers trying to see if they can get back into good standing with us. 112 of those 301 have exhausted that step with the lawyers. And that step could go on long. It could have been a few months. It could have been a year also with the lawyers. But 112 have now exhausted the option of talking to us and talking to the lawyers, and we've now applied for eviction orders. Of that 112, 35 households have minors in them, 24 households have older persons in them. Again, there may be an overlap. And 32 of these households are in social housing. That's regulated by the social housing regulator. I want to say that our numbers of minors and older persons can also be just slightly off, because when people get to court, they will make better submissions. We might hear that someone has taken in their sister's child that they didn't report to us, but now this child is also going to be affected if they go in to be homeless. But this is the base of the data that the tenants have shared with us previously, or with our lawyers. Now I want to move on to some background information about us. I've included a slide there that shows you who our board is, who our executives is. I'm not going to talk about that, but I want to go to the next slide, the next two slides, please, Guliswa, where you can see information about Communicare. Who are we? Communicare is an independent social enterprise. We were registered as a non-profit company in 1929 under the name of Citizens Housing League Utilities Company. Our name has changed 4 times since then. You can see the history of how it's changed. But we are Communicare ever since 1990. But we are the same Citizens Housing League Utilities Company that was formed in 1929. Only whereas it was formed in 1929 only to serve the poor community, today we serve the entire community of Cape Town, and we certainly do not discriminate according to race. We have been active developing housing for sale and for rental in Cape Town for over 95 years. And we have developed and sold over 22,000 houses in Cape Town's affordable housing market and in the middle segment of the housing sales market. Elsewhere, elsewhere in my slides, don't go there now, but on my slide 18, you will see some of the many neighborhoods, townships that we developed from scratch over our 95 years. Today, we own and manage over 3,400 residential units. They are all in the social housing and affordable housing market. We have a small portfolio of commercial properties. They are mostly retail. Although the majority, over 80% of what we're doing is our residential rentals. We are level 1 BEE company for the last 7 years, and we have been accredited also by the social housing regulator to act as a social housing institution, allowing us to develop and manage social housing. You may go to the next slide. I've put there our vision, mission, values, and our promise, but our brand promise. But I think the important thing is our mission. We are established today to work towards a mission of providing affordable housing sustainably in Cape Town for people with relatively low incomes, also with opportunities for their economic upliftment. So we have a program that enables people to strengthen their household income so that they're not eternally dependent on rental housing or affordable rental or social housing. And right now we have a pipeline to develop 10,000 new apartments in Cape Town, and we're doing that across 4 projects that we are working on. I want to also stress that our projects for development of this 10,000 apartments, the bulk of which are on land that we already own or in properties that we are planning to redevelop. The bulk of these 10,000 units we intend delivering between now and 2032, so it's over the next 5 years. These projects are being severely impacted by the fact that we have this investigation hanging over our head with no outcome. It makes it very difficult for all branches of government to play their part and say yes and no to certain approvals that are needed in the development planning process. So we were very happy to be invited to address the committee last year on this matter, and even to address you today, and all the times you want us to address you, we will come, because what we are here for is to deliver this housing. What we are here for is to help solve the housing crisis that is getting deeper and deeper in Cape Town. We are not here to evict people. Unfortunately, though, if you are going to own rental housing, it is a rental contract. People have to pay. And when people don't pay, you have to be prepared to seek an eviction. If you don't do that, no one will pay, and then no one will be able, we will not be able to exist in very short space of time. And these 10,000 and all the other housing that we plan to develop will never be developed. So it's a rental model that relies on that. And we rely on good relations with all the parts of government to enable both the delivery of the projects and also fair and just equitable relations, and fair and just equitable evictions when those are required. So it's why we go to court. We don't do the things that other landlords do, squeeze people out, make it awful for them so that they leave, bring in, big scary men, take out their doors, their windows, and things. We don't do those things. We go to court, we let the courts exercise the law which the government has put in place to protect people. We let the courts determine what's fair and equitable. But we really would like to be able to advance the delivery of these units that we have planned, and that are being where the developments are being slowed down because branches are aware there's an investigation, or departments of government are aware there's an investigation, and they just need to see because they don't want to be caught on the wrong side of the law. If you can move to my next slide. We have organized all the property we own into 3 property portfolios. 35% of all the units we own are sitting in a portfolio we call Good Fine Properties. It has residential property in there. It also has commercial property in there. Like the general store that we have at the bottom of a complex, for example. And these properties are meant to perform or meant to be rented out at normal market rates for rental. Good Fine Properties is 100% owned by us. And it is a PTY limited because it is renting things out at market rates. It has to pay full tax like any other property. Communicare is also a fully tax-paying entity. We pay normal tax. Like other businesses, we do not have a PBO status that gives us tax breaks. So Good Fine Properties has 35% of the residential property we manage. Then our Mother City Housing Company portfolio. This is the portfolio of properties that we use to manage all our regulated social housing properties. This is only 22% of all the units we own, and it's located in 3 developments of the Dromedaris pilot project. Poetische Gardens, phase 2 and phase 3, those were done in partnership with the social housing regulator and the government. And it has therefore a target market of who can live there. It has a target, it has regulations around what the rent can be and how it can escalate and things we have to do in the management of it. And the regulator is constantly monitoring our performance on it. We have to, as a social housing organization, we have to submit quarterly performance reports to the SHRA, and the SHRA comes and does the audits. Some of them are done by the SHRA internally, some are done by outside parties they appoint. And I think as long as I've been here, we've had audits almost every year from the social housing regulator to make sure that we that we are compliant with the social housing regulations. And then our third portfolio is our Shared Future Rentals portfolio, which is properties that we rent out in the affordable housing market. Rents here could be very low. So, for example, in this portfolio, we have 2 properties that are focused on renting to pensioners, and where rents might be as low as 700 Rand or 600 Rand for their units. And then other units in this portfolio will perhaps be rented out at slightly higher rates, aligned with the affordable housing market, so that we have cross-subsidization happening inside the shared future rentals portfolio. These properties we are not, they overlap. The tenants tend to overlap with the kind of tenants that could be in social housing. The rentals could be overlapping with the kind of rentals you're finding in social housing, but this is not, has not been implemented in partnership with the social housing regulator. It hasn't been done with social housing grants, and so it's been self-funded by us. You can move to my next slide. Here you will just, it's just showing you sort of what the legal structure is of these things. You can see there Good Vine Properties is 100% owned by Communicare. We have all the shares in Good Vine Properties. Mother City Housing Company is a non-profit company, which we also fully control, since nobody else there. Shared Future Rentals is not a separate company. It's just a brand we use for those other rental products. And then we have our social development arm, Vula Matuba Empumelelo, which does all our social development programs, which we offer to our tenants. If you go to the next slide, you'll see what those are. We have an economic mobility program, which we offer the tenants. Our tenants can, all these things are offered at virtually free to people. They only pay a tiny amount of money just to make sure they are invested in following through. They are serious when they sign up. But we have a matric program. Our tenants can come and finish matric with us. Also, people in the surrounding neighborhoods can enroll in these programs. They can do their matric. We have tutors supporting them. They can do matric, a full matric. They can do pure maths. They can do sciences. They can have enter for matric if they've never sat for matric before, or if they're wanting to improve their marks. Then we also offer training with TV, ET qualifications, so that people are able to be more upgrade themselves in the job market by advancing their qualifications. We offer bursaries for higher education to our tenants and people in surrounding neighborhoods. We have a job readiness skills development program. These are all things designed to try and help our tenants to thrive economically. Included in this is not only skills development. We are helping people to make better financial decisions. Some people are renting with us because they're so deep in debt, so there's debt counseling available, and people also have access to computers and things so that they can job search and so on. Then we have a social cohesion program where our tenants can get involved with food gardens, dance classes, and conflict resolution skills. This is because our complexes are now diverse places where people of different ages and also of different, to use the term of different race groups, are also present, and we recognize that they are not going to live together harmoniously without some intentional building of social cohesion. So we have programs to do that. And then on our next slide, you'll see we have programs to reduce the vulnerability of tenants in our complexes. And while the economic mobility program will also reduce vulnerability, the food gardens also reduce vulnerability. But over and above that, we focus a little bit with the elderly by helping people to remain physically active. We have a team of social workers that support our older tenants when they become frail, when they need care, because we do not have old age homes. These are not retirement villages. This is a person who rented to an apartment from us, who has grown old with us, or who has come in at a certain age when they could still live independently, but now maybe suddenly can no longer live independently. Our social workers work with them to understand what's available in the system for them, or to engage with their families around the care and the support that they might need. We also have certain properties, as I mentioned, where we offer concessionary rentals to tenants who are dependent on the SASSA old age grant. And then we have short-term relief, where tenants fall on hard times, if it's unplanned. So someone's gotten retrenched, or someone's died in the household who was contributing financially, and the household needs to configure in order to maintain their tenancy. We would normally offer some sort of short-term rent relief to allow people to recover. But of course, if people cannot recover, then we have to start talking to them about exiting, either to go to a more affordable apartment or to find a place to live that's not in our portfolio where they can afford. As I'm saying in this next slide, you can see here, we were formed in 1929. At that point, Communicare's only interest was poor white people, and it built Ruitenwacht and Brooklyn in between the 30s and the 50s as neighborhoods, townships that developed to accommodate the poor white people who had been living in informal structures prior to that. Then after the 50s, Communicare took advantage of loans that the government was offering anybody who would build housing that they would be prepared to rent to older persons. It didn't need to be old age homes, but there was a crisis with older people. The population had been aging, and there wasn't enough housing available for people who were not families in family houses. And so the government at the time would give loans to developers who were prepared to build and then rent to older persons for certain fixed periods of time, 10 years, 20 years, or whatever. So for a period, we were also taking advantage of those loans and building structures that we rented then exclusively to people who were elderly. And there were loan agreements that dictated how long you had to continue to rent to the old people or the older people until you would be relieved as the developer of that obligation. The government stopped offering those loans in the 80s. And so Communicare then stopped building those structures with government loans for older people. And because this is now, we are 46 years later, all those requirements related to those loans, those obligations have all been fulfilled. They're passed. In the preceding years, we would have reported on those to the then provincial ministers of human settlements, but those periods are long gone now. We did our first new developments for Black, I'm talking about Black people as defined in the BEE Act, so broadly Black as in, all people who were considered non-white then. We started that in the 60s, and we've continued. However, in the early phases, between 64 and 94, so that first 30 years, those developments were very much following the government of the day's separate development policies and programs. These were not, in other words, these were not racially integrated developments. Our first racially integrated developments we only developed in 94 and onwards. I've mentioned the names of those there. And then the last bullet I want to draw attention to here is that we have always been a social enterprise. From the very beginning, we were pursuing a social purpose, and we were doing this while at the same time using entrepreneurship to make the work we do more sustainable. So some of the neighborhoods we had built and sold houses in back then were Thornton in the 50s and 60s. We had built most of Thornton, Labiance in Belleville in the 60s, Kenridge in Durbanville, Kirstenhof, Swanswyk, Eversdale, Montevideo, Mufuleni, Fairdale, Ceres. These are places we never necessarily had rental units in, but we were building houses, building shopping centers, doing all the infrastructure, transferring the infrastructure to the government, and selling the units. Today, our tenants are generally a reflection of the demographics of the Western Cape, by and large. We just draw this data from sort of who our leaseholders are. Of course, households are diverse. They are not the one thing anymore. You can move to the next slide. But fundamentally, please move to the next slide. Our core business is expanding affordable housing sustainably, new housing apartments. Some of our new developments I've included there. If you can click on, please. At the moment, there is a development plan at the Salt River Market. This is what the Salt River Market looks like today if you flew over it. This used to be a fruit and vegetable, fresh product in hundreds of years ago, and probably as recently as about still 50 years ago. But the market declined and was no longer in use. There were only sort of 3 fresh produce vendors at the market recently. People were using the space for storage, and it was generally underutilized. This property was owned by the city of Cape Town. The area surrounding the Salt River is one of the only areas that was successful in resisting forced removals. All around the Salt River Woodstock area, people were forcibly removed, and people of color. But the community of Salt River and into Woodstock actually resisted that quite successfully. However, in recent times, the area has been tremendously gentrified. And if you now go through the area, the locals who had fought to stay there 50 years ago during apartheid times have been forced out by the property owners. So the city of Cape Town earmarked the site for a social housing, affordable housing, mixed-use development, with the intention that it would be at least one place within this neighborhood where the locals could still live. And they put the site out for sale to their social housing partners in a few years ago, and we were the successful bidder. We have planned a development where there will be 300 social housing apartments, 700 affordable housing apartments available to the people of Salt River Woodstock. Once it's developed, this is going to cost us around 220 million rand in investment of capital, of which, the government will contribute about 45% of the social housing cost. So about 40,000 in social housing grants. The government will contribute. The rest we will put in to deliver this 1,000 social and affordable housing apartments using a program of the national government, its social housing program, to deliver this to the people of Cape Town in a city where people who come from the city are struggling to access housing. This is an example of a development that is being affected by the ongoing, never-ending forensic investigation. If we can get to an end of the investigation, it will allow the development to proceed a lot more smoothly. And so I appeal to you to accelerate the finalization of this investigation. I heard that the investigator was appointed about a year ago, and we met the investigator for the first time in December, and it was just a meet and greet. He didn't come with questions. I don't know when this investigation will ever end. Then this is a second development we are planning. Currently, we own the site. There are only 84 apartments on the site. Well, there are a number of sites adjacent to each other. They are in Brooklyn on what is known as the Coburg Road Development Corridor, where the city will eventually one day make a lot of infrastructure investments. The area is currently going down because it is in need of investment. We own three sites where we have 84 apartments on those sites at the moment. We purchased from the city a piece of vacant land, which will allow us to develop our 3 sites plus the vacant land into 350 new affordable housing apartments. To Minister Simelane, these could be 350 social housing apartments if you want, but we have been told that there isn't social housing grants so many for Cape Town, so we are proceeding with them as affordable housing apartments. And this will allow the 84 that are there to kind of, by buying the vacant site, we should be able to temporarily relocate the 84 who already live there, do the development, add 350 new apartments. And that's going to cost us 202 million rand, which we will raise in loans and service ourselves with no government grants. Then out in Kuils River, we have another development where in the top part where you can see it's blue, the shades of blue, and the 2 grey sites, those are commercial development that we're busy implementing now. Those are creating jobs in the community. And then in all the orange section and the white section that you see just above the orange, we will be developing 2,000 new affordable housing apartments, where for the affordable housing apartments, we expect to spend 480 million rand in capital expenses. Again, and you will see all the land that we have, these are all in good neighborhoods with lots of infrastructure. There's jobs nearby, there's schools nearby, there's hospitals nearby. There is access to public transport. If we were a different landlord, we could do this as upmarket luxury housing and we could make loads of money. Nothing stops us from doing that. But because of our mandate, our purpose, our mission, which is to advance the delivery of affordable and social housing, that's why these residential developments I'm showing you are developments we are planning that focus on delivering social and affordable housing. You can click past to the next slide. This is just showing you the top of that same site in Kuils River where we're doing the commercial development. There you can see we have already developed all the infrastructure, which costed 336 million. And we're now doing top structures. Like I said, this is about job creation. We're going to put 2,000 households there. They're going to need places to work and spend their money. We just built and they started trading a builder's warehouse. And now we will start construction on a Checkers in next month. Construction on Checkers will start and so on. That's the top of that. My second last slide. How are we funded? We are being self-funded through our social enterprise approach. So these commercial things that we do create money. We use that money to build use that money to give certain concessionary rentals. We use that money to fund our Vula Lelo program. We do not receive any operating grants from the government or other donors. By that, I mean, nobody is sending us money every month to cover costs for anything. The people who are doing these construction projects the people who are managing the properties. The property costs themselves have to be covered by the rents we collect from commercial tenants and from our residential tenants. And the money we collect has also got to be able to service the loans that banks give us to be able to pay and create this value for the people of our city. We are non-profit, so we do not have shareholders, and there is no money that leaves the business or the organization to pay shareholders. And I think that's important for you to register. When we receive social housing grants for the social housing developments, they are only for the initial capitals. So they contribute to a portion of the building costs upfront, and after that, the day-to-day costs of running the place, the maintenance costs, the cost of utilities, cost of gardening, cleaning, of pest control, all of that has to be covered by rental. I think I will stop there and take questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Maybe before we take questions, let me allow the DDG, if she has something to present, so that we take questions having the understanding from both sides. DDG?
Thank you, the Deputy Minister, Ms. Hoskin and team from Communicare colleagues. Chair, we have not prepared a presentation given the fact that we have shared with the members previously our presentation, but safe to indicate, Chair, that some of the issues that were raised by Anthea, the CEO, are issues that were discussed with Communicare executives previously by the former minister. And we do want to actually emphasize the fact that she is correct in terms of the investigation that started in 2020, but we did indicate that that was the first investigation which was inconclusive. And that's the reason why there was a follow-up investigation. And the second matter, Chair, that we wanted to raise, which she has raised sharply, this was an assignment that the Portfolio Committee had actually requested the DG to carry out in consultation with the province as well as the city of Cape Town when it comes to the issue of the profiling. I do want to indicate, Chair, that that meeting did take place, but unfortunately, both the city as well as the province, they did indicate that they will await the outcome of the courts when it comes to the evictions from Communicare. And the whole intention in terms of the previous engagements with the city and the province was to address exactly what Anthea is saying, that they were meant to develop a long-term plan to provide alternative accommodation and not wait for court outcomes. As and when people are being evicted for whatever reason, they should be able to assist. But they did present to the committee previously that their understanding of what has been taking place is that this is viewed as queue jumping by both the province as well as the city. And that's the reason why they said they will await outcomes from the court as and when this happens. So, Chair, I do want to indicate that we will engage on the basis of the questions that have been raised by the members, but the issues that have been raised by the CEO have been raised in the presence of the former minister previously, and it's upon the city and the province to then take the process forward in terms of the profiling and provide accommodation for the needy members that are actually being evicted from the Communicare properties, especially the private properties. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Not sure whether the minister is still in. but I can't see her on the platform. Okay, because I wanted to give her an opportunity to comment before she leaves. I can't see her on the platform. Okay, let's engage with the presentations, honorable members. Honorable Poole.
Chairperson.
Hello.
Apologies, Chairperson. Yes, I did check. The minister is not here, but the DM is still in attendance. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, I can see the DM is still in attendance. Thank you very much. Honorable Poole, followed by Honorable Abada, then Honorable Gamini. In that order.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning to the DM and the officials and everybody on the platform as well. Allow me to welcome the presentation of Communicare. Chair, yes, only two questions from my side. And yes, I want to echo what you have said. And this past 3 days, we have a wonderful IBT summit. And if you look at the summit, you can actually see that the focus area of all the contractors attending was the concerning of the funding model to implement what we see on the summit. But nevertheless, it was a good summit. Chair, number one, I want to ask whether with reference to the matter raised under committee summit and under investment since 2020, the department has finalized its investigation. If not, from the presenter, the reason for the prolonged delay in the finalization in the investigation, and I hear to the answer of the DGG, whether the delay is attributable to lack of institutional capacity or any other factors, and see whether the department can commit to clear and binding timeframe with specific deadline for the finalization of the investigation. If not, why not? And secondly, Chair, you can remember last year we have an oversight visit as a committee to the Katrada building managed by Communicare, and as a committee submissions into this matter, and I seek clarity on the following. One, whether the department has made progress on set submissions into the Katrada building matter, which has been ongoing. If not, what are the precise reasons for the delay? Whether the delay is primarily due to capacity constraint, poor intergovernmental coordination, or any other identified institutional failures, and what corrective measures have been implemented to resolve these challenges. Three, whether the department can commit to confirm to a firm and binding deadline for the completion of the investigation and submission of its findings to the committee. If not, why not? Four, Chair, given that the matter affects vulnerable tenants, including households with minors and older persons, what immediate interim measures that the department has put in place to protect these tenants while the investigation remains unresolved, including access to alternative accommodation or social support where necessary? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Abada.
Thank you, Chair. There we go. Good morning, Chair. Good morning to the DM and all the entities on the platform and my fellow colleagues and our support staff. Thank you for the presentation. But we still, the thing for me is the humanity and the dignity of our people. And we heard this in the IBT summit over the last 2 days. We strive on humanity and dignity. And for some reason, I feel that Communicare just doesn't care. And I know that Communicare is going to say that they disagree with me. But when you put people out over the festive season that are in their 70s, their 80s, and their 90s, you're putting out people that were in wheelchairs. We receive reports every single day from people telling us what is going on. And it's it's heartbreaking to know that we can just do this. And I understand that, people need to pay their rentals and they need to, or for whatever reason, they're not paying the rentals. But, it doesn't make sense to me. Chairperson, this presentation raises serious concerns about who is really being protected here and who is being sacrificed in Communicare's current approach. And, it comes down to our people at the end of the day. On the 4th of February, and the court order, so my question to Communicare is, given that the Western Cape High Court has now postponed the eviction of 34 families at Valfierdien after expressly noting its link to an ongoing forensic investigation into the disposal of communicating eviction proceedings anywhere in its portfolio where the legality of past asset transfers remains under judicial and forensic scrutiny. And will the board commit on record to an immediate moratorium on all evictions involving vulnerable households until this matter is finally determined? And this court order was done now on the 4th of February. And then how does Communicare justify continuing with eviction orders against households that include minors, elderly persons, and social housing tenants, while simultaneously asking Parliament to encourage tenants to honour contracts, when the department's investigation has been dragging on since 2020 and remains unresolved? At what point does this become punishment before due process? You report an average of 35 million per year in bad debt over 5 years, yet you are undertaking billion-rand commercial developments and large-scale capex projects. Why are vulnerable tenants bearing the brunt through evictions instead of a transparent review of cross-subsidization, executive decisions, and commercial risk appetite? Communicare states that 95 to 98% of tenants are in good standing, yet eviction proceedings are actively pursued against the remaining minority. Why is the organization choosing a legal enforcement approach rather than a development social housing response, especially where court orders are over a year old and involve children and pensioners? My comments is the presentation frames eviction as an unavoidable business necessity, but downplays the constitutional, social, and ethical implications of removing vulnerable households while investigations and policy clarity remain outstanding. And we keep going back to the fact that this investigation is ongoing. And I understand that it's putting a damper on Communicare because you also need this resolved. But, we look at the department now to tell us when will this be completed. Communicare's repeated emphasis on tenants breaking the law and intentional rental boycotts creates a narrative that shifts blame downward while insufficiently interrogating internal governance choices, affordability thresholds, and the social housing mandate. While the organization highlights its long history and social programs, there is a stark disconnect between its stated values of dignity and accountability and the lived reality of eviction threats facing elderly tenants, minors, and low-income households. And I just have a recommendation, Chair, I'm almost done. All evictions involving minors, elderly persons, and social housing tenants must be immediately suspended until the Department of Human Settlements investigation is concluded and formally reported to Parliament. And this is what we've been asking for a while now. We've been asking to halt it. And we understand that, it's a problem. But how do we move forward? You cannot just, put people out. Communicare must submit a detailed audit breakdown of cross-subsidization, including how commercial profits, executive remuneration, security expenditure, and capex decisions are weighed against eviction actions targeting vulnerable tenants. The portfolio committee should require a revised rights-based eviction prevention framework aligned to PI, social housing principles, and constitutional obligations with clear alternatives to eviction and measurable social outcomes, not just financial sustainability. These are things that we've been asking for a while now. And, it's something that we, like Communicare is telling us that these are the things that they, are faced with. These are the questions we continuously ask, and we're not getting any answers there. Thank you, Chair. I submit.
Thank you, Honorable Dlamini.
Thank you very much, Chair. Greetings to the meeting at large. Chair, may I please request to keep my camera off? If you hear any noise in my background, I'm in a not so conducive environment, but I'll try to be as audible as possible.
Not audible.
Am I not audible?
Yeah. I don't know whether you are using these things you put in the ear or what. Or is either your network?
Is it better now?
Yeah, you are better now.
Is it better now? Okay.
Network. Hello? Honorable Dlamini?
Am I audible now?
Yeah, if you just stand there where you are now and continue, I think you are audible.
All right, I'll try to be as short as possible. I just want to find out from the department, how much is the investigator commissioned to conduct this investigation? Who is this investigator, and how much is he being paid to ensure that there's an investigation? Because it's concerning when Communicare says that the investigator comes to them for a meet and greet but doesn't get any evidence. It means that we're not going to go anywhere with what we're trying to find out with regards to how Communicare is configured. The second one is that there were people who were placed to ensure that the resolutions of the 2022 meeting are implemented, and none of them have been implemented. In particular, with the city of Cape Town having to profile residents who are occupying properties of Communicare, and up to date, there hasn't been any profile of the residents. And what are the consequence management of that? Because it's completely unacceptable. Rental cost in the city of Cape Town is becoming such a concern that there are members of society of all different races now, because now it's affecting whether you're white or black or colored or Indian. The community is being greatly affected by the inflated rental prices in the city of Cape Town. And if we don't aggressively and speak to address this issue of people not being able to afford living in Cape Town, the country is going to come into a crisis. We need to know instances when Communicare goes and says they're going to fundraise money. Where are they fundraising? Where are they getting this money to fundraise? In whose interest is it? It needs to be a concern to us as Parliament that who is investing into the properties of City of Cape Town, and for profit maximization, that members of the community are unable to afford these rental prices. So I have an interest in this investigator, because if this investigator is not assisting the process, then there must be changed. We can't be sitting in meetings having the same presentation over and over again while literally dilly-dallying around a topic, and there's no way forward. As to the meeting initially started in 2022, we need the progress of what was implemented post that meeting. Otherwise, we're going to come back here in a few weeks. It's just at this point, we're not going anywhere. The next portfolio committee that's going to come in human settlement must still deal with the same issue. We need progress as to the resolutions that were reached. How far are we? Where is the stumbling block coming from the department, so that we know where do we address our grievances to. If it's the city of Cape Town, then the city of Cape Town must come and account to the committee. But I'm refusing this thing that every time we speak on Communicare issues, we're literally having the same presentations being given to us here in this committee. And the issue of mass evictions speak to the issue that there is an issue of rental costs in the city of Cape Town, which Communicare is also a part of. Because people not being able to afford social housing, there's a crisis there. We need to regulate as a committee how are rental prices being constituted in this country, in particular in the Western Cape. There's a serious crisis, Chairperson, that I think we need to look into, and there needs to be a direction as to how do we address this thing. Throughout December, members of community have been speaking out on various social media platforms that there is it's unaffordable to live in the city of Cape Town. And those are the things that we need to address. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Let me start with the department and then Communicare will follow. Questions that were directed to the department. Deputy Minister, did you?
Chairperson, I'll start, and maybe the Deputy Minister will then want to would prefer to conclude. Chair, with regards to the questions asked by Honorable Pool and Honorable Zamini, Honorable Pool in relation to the Katraga building, I will request Mr. Paul Masemula, our legal services, to actually reflect on that, as well as the questions that were coming from Honorable Zamini in relation to the investigators, who are they, and the funding and all that. I will also request Mr. Masemula to respond to that. Chair, we have, I think initially when the service provider was appointed, they did the first phase, and the first phase was the findings had actually confirmed the issue with regards to the title deeds and the ownership of all the properties that are actually registered and listed under the name of Communicare. The second phase, which has since taken off the ground, was then to determine, which was also shared with Communicare during the meeting with the former Minister Kubai, was to determine as to whether the Communicare's properties did not benefit from the government housing scheme previously, which had actually made it possible for them to be able to run the kind of a social housing program long before the establishment of the Social Housing Regulatory Authority. This is the process that is unfolding. Maybe let me go back to what was raised by both Honorable Pool and Honorable Zamin in terms, as well as the CEO of Communicare, to the fact that the investigation started a long time ago. Yes, it is correct. Minister Sisulu requested some time back, and I think that investigation started in 2021 and was concluded in 2022. Minister Sisulu had requested the Social Housing Regulatory Authority to conduct an investigation. This was as a result of the findings by the former DM of the Department of Human Settlements and the DM of Social Development at that time, as a result of what was raised by most of the complainants who were the tenants of Communicare. Now, that investigation, which was conducted by SHRA, was concluded in 2022. But unfortunately, the focus of the investigation was limited to the properties that were approved by SHRA and not expanded to all the existing properties that are owned by Communicare. That was a limitation in terms of what they did. The lawyers who were conducting the investigation, one of the recommendations was to say, please make sure that you expand the scope and get someone else to get deeper into details in as far as the properties that were in existence prior 1994. That's the work that they did not do. The former Minister Kubai became aware of this investigation when she received a complaint through the presidency, and that complaint referred to that investigation. So we managed to get hold of that investigation in 2024, which was in April 2024. but is it 2024? Yes, I think it's 2024, if I'm not mistaken. Now, upon studying the investigation, that's when we realized that it did not deal with the issues that were raised as a concern by the tenants. That's why now a new investigation had to actually ensue, and this is the investigation that is underway. Now, this investigation has actually gone beyond what SHRA has actually discovered in terms of their own investigation. But the complaints that were coming from the tenants had nothing to do with the properties that have been actually accredited and funded by SHRA. It had everything to do with all the properties that the CEO has been referring to, which are called private properties. The reason is those tenants are saying those properties are state properties. They were funded by the state. Communicare benefited from the state funding in as far as the subsidy for the middle income and the low income earners during that time. And this is what we are trying to ascertain as the department. Now, to also respond to the question that was raised by Honorable Poole to say, what is the timeline of the investigation? We have extended the timeline of the investigation, and it's coming to an end in 2026, September this year. That's the time when we're expecting to get the second phase of the investigation from the service provider. Mr. Masemula will then give the details in terms of who are the service providers and all that. Now, in response to the issues that were raised, the matters that were raised by Honorable Dlamini, to say how far are we with the implementation of the resolutions? It's 2024, Honorable Dlamini. I think you incorrectly said 2022. The resolutions at that time, one, the minister had said the department should communicate to the MEC and make the MEC aware of the discussions with Communicare and the resolutions. Number two, the Communicare, together with the city as well as the department, provincial department, were requested to profile all the tenants who were actually defaulting at that time in terms of their rental payments. And for the city, working together with the provincial department to develop a long-term plan where they will be clear as to how will they provide alternative accommodation of those people who would have been profiled, not to avoid a situation where they will be ultimately evicted. None of those were done by either the province or the city. There was a meeting, Honorable Chairperson, and I think Honorable Dlamini was not in that meeting, where the city and the province were invited. And even in that meeting, they had not actually done anything in as far as those resolutions are concerned. The other resolution was this investigation, which was directly the responsibility of the National Department, which is happening. But all the other resolutions that were a responsibility of the province as well as the city, that has not actually been carried out. Out of that meeting, Chair, you would recall, and the members, the DG was assigned to coordinate a meeting where the city and the province would actually give an account, but also come up with that plan. The meeting did take place, and unfortunately, both the province and the city, they said they will prefer to sit the matter out, meaning that they will play a wait-and-see game, depending on what the outcome is of the court, meaning that they will allow Communicare to evict, they will allow the matters to go to court, and they will respond as and when the court dictates in terms of the evicted tenants. That's where we are at this point in time, Chair. As a department, we have implemented the resolutions, but the city and the province, they have not as yet, and we are not getting any joy in as far as those issues are concerned. I will pause at this point, Chair, and we do welcome the comments and the inputs that were made by Honorable Abada, and I will request Mr. Masemula as our legal services to deal with the two matters that were raised by both Honorable Dlamini and Honorable Poole. With your permission, Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Masemola.
Thanks, Chairperson and honorable members of the committee and DM. Yes.
You open your camera.
Chair.
Please open your camera.
Okay.
Thank you. Continue.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. The understanding is that the Kathrada building is not necessarily owned by Communicare, but I think we needed the involvement of both the province and the city of Cape Town. And we had, as the department, arranged the meeting as a DDG Naka has shown that, has indicated that we did arrange the meeting, but it was not very successful. And we then intended to have another meeting to try and find each other on the roles that needs to be played by each sphere of government. And on the day, I think the province didn't attend. It was only the city. Now we needed to really come back and try to resolve this issue, especially on the issue of in cases where the tenants had made some proposals to say they need some intervention from both the city and the province to make sure that they are not evicted, but there is an alternative request that they are making so that they are left to remain in the building. So we needed to have them, their buy-in to really agree or clearly disagree or make up the consideration of what would have been presented by the occupants. And we have not finalized that. And I'm sure as the department, we would fast track that and make sure that before end of this month, we are able to convene again and make sure that there is a report back on it. It could even be in a form of a report, written report to Parliament to indicate what would have been the final outcome of that. On the owner, or rather the investigation team that is been appointed, it is called Maoma Omora forensic investigators that were appointed. Thanks.
Thank you. But before you step off the platform, Mr. Masamola, there is a concern even from Communicare that it has been a year that the forensic investigators were appointed. But even up to now, they've not started with their work. They just met Communicare on meet and greet. Because if this investigation is not finalized, it has a negative impact on a number of issues. At the same time, I think it's Honorable Dlamini who asked whether they are being paid just for meet and greet, or what's the situation? Not sure whether we are able to deal with that.
Thanks, Chairperson. I think there are milestones that they needed to attend to, and collection of that data and all other things I think they would have done. They are at the last part of, I think, of attending to what the milestone, where they need to actually also meet with different stakeholders. I know they would have met with some of the complainants, or rather community that is involved. The next meeting was to meet with Communicare, and from where I'm sitting, I would have been expecting that they would have met with Communicare and indicated their role and what is expected of them. I think we are not aware that the meeting that they would have had so far was just a meet and greet. And I think we will go back and inquire as to why was it just a meet and greet? What was the impediment? Because that would have financial implications. on our side if not properly checked. And I think we think that there is this information that the meeting was just meet and greet, but we will then go back and find out so that we can fast track this. That's what we will do. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you. Communicare.
Thank you, Chairperson. I hope I will address everything. I want to be clear that we do not own the Katrada building. And I also want to be clear that we have not done evictions over the festive season. It is frequently things are attributed to Communicare that are not ours, that are the actions of other property owners or the actions of other social housing organizations. But our evictions, we did not have evictions over the festive season. Then I would like to perhaps address the last comment that came from Mr. Masemola regarding the investigation. To me, it is highly unsatisfactory that we had to read about the investigation through social media a year ago. And then it took 9 months for us to be notified by the Department of Human Settlements that an investigation is underway, only after I wrote to ask for confirmation. And then to have the investigator come to us a year later for the purpose of saying, hello, I am so-and-so, we are doing the investigation. This is what it's going to be about. I just think that something so serious that is playing with the roofs over people's heads, that is playing with the delivery of thousands of houses into our city, and with the status and the reputation of our organization, I don't think that it can be dealt with in such a casual way. And so I do want to appeal to Mr. Masemola to please ensure that, or to do what he can to ensure that there is urgency and a timeline and a clear program. We have not seen the scope of this investigation. We do not know where it begins and where it ends. We do not know what the timeline is. But it is being discussed in various forums, and it is affecting decisions that affect us. And so I want to come to the issue raised by the Honorable Abada around the ruling in court yesterday on Valferdient. And I want to give take the committee into our confidence on this property. Valferdient is a property we own in Rondebosch, which was built 60 or 70 years ago. It was built with technology. At the time, we were not the builders of it. We purchased the property. It was built with technology that was okay then, and which is to say there are clay pipes running under the property, bringing the water into the building. Clay pipes. These pipes have been bursting year after year. We had to take our engineers to go and fix the pipes underneath. It reached a point where our engineers had said that this building, that those pipes need to be replaced, that there's no more fixes they can do to it. It has a roof that needs to be replaced. It has balconies that needs to be replaced. It has property, the design of the property no longer meets the modern day building codes. We got a structural engineer. Well, our various consultants told us that it needed to be replaced, that it was beyond a point of fixing the building. The Human Rights Commission, the tenants, when we asked for the tenants to relocate so that we could do the rebuild, They appealed to the Human Rights Commission, who paid an independent structural engineer to produce a report which said the building needs to be replaced, just as our own consultants had said. What we offered our tenants was for all of them to move to properties that we already own at the same rental. Some of these properties would mean moving from Newlands, from Rondebosch to Newlands, Rondebosch maybe to Upper Wynberg. All the properties were within a 10K radius, which is a smaller radius than the recent Constitutional Court judgment in the Bromwell case, which said the people must stay within a certain radius that were facing relocation. We had an even smaller radius to not disturb people. We would carry all the costs of relocating them. They would stay at their own rent. The majority of, and they would be able to return when the building was rebuilt. The majority of the tenants agreed and have relocated. There are 20 families who have refused to relocate. And this matter has been in front of the court, with us seeking to the court to grant an eviction order so that the building can be redeveloped. Yesterday, a judge said, seeing as how this investigation is continuing, it will rather wait until the investigating outcomes are decided before she pronounces on this matter. These people continue to live in a building that is not safe, that is not well maintained, and not a single one of them have been paying rent for the last 4 years. So this, to me, when you just look at data, when you look at the numbers that I'm telling you, people in front of the court, there's always a story. These are not simple things. These are not easy decisions to make. When we make that decision, we try to do this in the most humane way possible that would cause the least prejudice to those tenants. But nevertheless, we have been met with a group of tenants there who did not want to relocate. At the same time, when we get to the court, the judge does not necessarily listen to the entirety of the story. The judge has just decided to put the matter out for another 6 months, even though, or however long, even though this is certainly not the same like any other eviction matter that we have in front of the courts where someone hasn't paid or hasn't whatever. So, because no matter what the outcome of this investigation is, it hardly has a bearing on whether that building is safe to continue standing and should be rebuilt or not. And so this is just one very tangible example of how the work you are doing and the decisions you make are having impact on our operations and also the living conditions of the people who live with us. A fair amount of them may not be your intended consequences, but that is what is happening. To the question, and so I do want to say that, I take exception to the comment that we don't care. Perhaps you and others, and perhaps the honorable members here, care differently than we care. Perhaps in our shoes, you would make different decisions. Certainly, for every decision we have to make, there's a number of options, and we weigh them up, and we try to do what we think is in the best interest of our collective tenants, the 3,500 families who live with us, of the community of Cape Town who is relying on us to deliver the housing we need to deliver. It can't, and also our responsibility under the Companies Act to manage the resources of the organization in a way that is sustainable and responsible, because we're not allowed under the law to be reckless also with the organization's finances. Those are also things that we can personally be held liable for. So all these things have to be balanced. They're not simple. And so I think, it's a bit reductionist to just say that we don't care. But I do understand that you're coming at this with your heart, Honorable Abada. We are not in a position to put a moratorium on taking action against people who do not pay rent. This is a rental program. 3,500 families are inside our organization as tenants. If I put a moratorium on people, on acting against people who don't pay their rent, no one will pay their rent. Why won't they pay their rent? They won't pay their rent because their budgets are stretched. They have other pressing financial needs. And if there is a sense that we might be able to not pay, and now we can give our daughter a better wedding, or we can replace somebody's shoes that they need, or we can fix a car, then people are going to make those choices. We're not in a position where we can say it's okay, we will suspend rent payments and acting against people who don't pay rental, because our whole structure will collapse under it. When I show you the developments we plan, these are developments that we will have to go to the other honorable member who asked, Member Dlamini, who asked where we will raise money. We don't have investors. As I've said, we own everything ourselves. We do not have investors. We will go and borrow money from the banks, and the banks expect us to be able to pay back that money with interest. And that's why when we build something, the rent has to cover the cost of what we are building. I also want to say that we did have a moratorium once. In 2018, we discovered a corruption syndicate inside our organization of people who were posing as phantom facilities management companies doing maintenance work for us, that companies that didn't exist. The money was going into people's pockets through self-enrichment, executives, management, building supervisors who worked here, as well as outside people, as well as tenants who were all part of the syndicate, as well as a syndicate that was involved with taking kickbacks for giving people leases. And again, leasing managers, portfolio managers, as well as tenants who were all part, and outside parties who were part of the syndicate. We had a forensic investigation. We fired people. Other people jumped ship before they could be fired. They immediately started a protesting inside the tenant base in 2018. And this is where a lot of the non-paying tenants go all the way back to the rental boycott that started in 2018, 2019, 2020. We agreed because the government at the time had asked us to encourage all the tenants who were disgruntled to bring their complaints to the rental tribunal so that it could be heard in the proper forum. And they asked us to suspend taking action against the people who were not paying. We suspended it then, and the last of those hearings the outcomes were only decided in 2022. For 4 years, there were about 600 and odd people who we could not act against, who had not paid rent. I want to say that those were the darkest of years for us, because we had increasing numbers of people not paying with every passing day. We had people being violent on our properties because they regarded us now no longer as the property manager, because the government was sorting us out. And they started to physically abuse people who were trying to do their jobs. Service providers, our staff were being beaten up, were being driven off the complexes. Security guards were being driven off the complexes. We cannot have an environment in which we are not acting against people according to the leases they have entered into while government does its work. What should have taken a year in 2018 took at the time 4 years. And we absolutely cannot go back to that. All I can say is that we will cooperate with you as best we can in your investigation, and to urge you to hurry it up so that there can be certainty and outcomes. We are equally concerned with the dignity of people, the dignity of our staff, of our vendors, and of all our tenants. People who are protesting in our complexes are often intimidating other tenants, driving them away from what is their homes. And we have a responsibility to keep their homes well managed and well maintained. I think I've addressed everything that was raised. Yeah.
Okay. There are questions on the platform from Mr. Gamede. Although you touched on some of his questions, and from Honorable Kakakilo, there is also a follow-up question from Honorable Dlamini. Maybe as you look at the questions, let me start with Mr. Masemola. Okay. The Honorable Dlamini one, I think, is answered on the platform. Honorable Dlamini, are you able to address questions for Communicare? Are you able to address questions from Betty Karakilwe and Honorable Gamede? I don't know whether you are able to see those questions on the platform. CEO?
Yes, we can see the questions. I can also respond.
Okay.
There is a question around whether loans from government were repaid in full. There would have been a variety of loans. There were two types. Some loans were paid up. Other loans required that the loan, or the term of the loan was, if you complied with A, B, and C for X period of years, then the loan will be written off. So those were, for example, if you maintained the apartment for an older person up to a certain date. So until 2021 or until 2018 or until 2016. So we certainly repaid our loans, or where loans were able to be waived based on fulfilling certain terms and conditions, we fulfill the terms and conditions to achieve the waiver of the loan. That's the answer to that question. Those would have been written into the loan agreements, clearly, or they would have been agreed with the prevailing ministers at the time. Then there's a question about the units we donated. Were they subsidized by government and the people making money from that donation? So the only units we donated were to non-profit organizations that are not making money. They are housing SASSA pensioners. None of them are private companies, and none of them are even social enterprises with a money-making side. And these were not the kinds of property you could give people, because they had elderly people in them, but they were in rooms. So you couldn't exactly give the room to the tenant. Because these are like cottages with shared bathrooms and shared things, and so we needed to find organizations that focus on housing the elderly in shared living accommodation like that, which is why we worked with those particular three type organizations. My colleague Makosi wants to add something.
But also, through you, Chair, but also what we considered when we were doing those donations was the sustainability of those properties. Because the tenants, we had to weigh whether the tenants that were there were going to be able to sustain those properties in terms of maintenance and the upkeep. Most of them were run down, very old and run down, and it would have taken a lot of money to repair them. So that was one of the considerations that was made about who we're donating to, about and like sustainability, so that more people can benefit going forward. Thanks.
And then there is a question, I think I have spoken about the dilemma of balancing financial sustainability and the social mandate, but the second question from Honorable Gumede here is whether we are now, well, when there are evictions, are we not inadvertently perpetuating some kind of housing instability for the same people we are trying to help? I think that is obviously an unintended outcome. One enters into a lease agreement and hopes that the tenant is going to be able to service the agreement. We have our economic mobility program because we know the reality that our people have limited capacity to recover from shocks and stresses when that encounters. And we don't want to be having to evict a tenant when they have an economic shock or stressor. But I will tell you at the same time that as much as we have our programs, we would love to have greater numbers of tenants participating in them. Many people, even as I described this now, I was telling you about the period of time or when tenants are being organized to not pay rental. When that is happening on certain complexes, they are even being told, don't go and participate in the economic mobility programs, which is the most foolish thing to do, because those programs don't benefit us as much as it is benefiting the tenant, so that you don't need a landlord one day. You know, you get your matric, you get another qualification, you get out of debt. And why would people who are trying to help our tenants tell them not to do the kind of development interventions in their own lives that would benefit them? But I say, certainly to avoid this unintended consequence of inadvertently creating housing instability for the very people we try to help in the first place, we have our economic mobility program, our Vulamatuba Impumelelo program, and you can go and see the success we are having and the tenants who are participating, how much value it's creating in their lives. Because we don't want this, but we're also not living, we're not living in a bubble. We live in South Africa, just like everybody else. We're living in Cape Town, just like everybody else. And the realities of our economic context exist inside our properties too. And the social patterns, the social thinking that influences people to make poor decisions, or to not necessarily do the right things, or not play open cards with us when they should, and then wait till it's too late when we can no longer help them. These are all the realities that we have to deal with. It's not so simple that everybody comes to us innocently and says what they say. In 2018, I had a meeting with tenants in a community hall in the Thornton neighborhood, and said to the tenants, your rent escalations are going to go up because the gap between this complex's rental and the market is too big. And this property was always meant, these properties in Thornton, except for one, the rest of them were always meant to be creating opportunities for us to cross-subsidize elsewhere. And I said that to tenants, and I said, but if you are a vulnerable household, you come to us with your pay slips and your expenses, and you tell us, look, we've got 3 kids, and here are the school fees. You show us your income and expenditure. We don't want our rent escalation to hurt you. You come, and then we'll see how we work this out for you. We had the same tenant leaders tell people, don't go and disclose your financial information. We went to the rental tribunal. You can ask the people who work for the government at the rental tribunal. Tenants did not want to disclose their personal information. How can we help people when the first time they want to tell us is 4 years later when we're standing in court and they haven't paid rent for 4 years? So that becomes difficult. Or I have had tenants there at the rental tribunal where I even went personally with my team to hear for myself what is going on the ground. And I sat with a tenant who said, I have a child, he is disabled. I'm a single mom. I'm in a 2-bedroomed house in Reiterwacht. And I said, but now, ma'am, we can support you and you can be more secure if you move to this apartment over here. The tenant said, I don't want that. But I'm not paying my rent in Reiterwacht. What can we do? That's how I end up going to court to ask for a single mom who's raising a child to be evicted. It's not what we want to do, but at the end of the day, our people also have to be realistic. When we are presenting them with reasonable alternatives, move to another complex of ours where you will still be our landlord, where you can pay the sum of money that suits your pocket. When people say no, they leave us with very little choices to do, to find a middle ground with them. Unfortunately, that is the reality of the decisions that we have to make in order to fulfill our mandate, because our mandate is not to look after 3,500 tenants. Our mandate is to deliver more affordable housing, more social housing into the city. And to do that, we have to manage the properties and the tenants we have in a sustainable way. It can't be a bottomless charity. I think there may be more questions, Chair.
Others are recommendations. I think you've addressed all the questions that were on the platform. Let's continue. I'm not sure whether the DM would like to comment before we summarize the item. Would the DM like to comment? If not, let me try to summarize. I think DTG and Mr. Masamola, the issue of investigation is very key. Without it, like Honorable Dlamini said, we're going to come back with the same presentation. If it's possible, DTG, can we, and Mr. Masamola, can we make sure that this thing of investigation is finalized so that all of us are on the same page? We know what is the status of Communicare, so that even when we try to do interventions, we'll be doing interventions based on what the investigators have said, and we're able to move forward. We'll really appeal as a portfolio committee that we make sure that the investigation is fast-tracked, involve the relevant stakeholders as per your appointment, but also take Communicare on board so that they are also open to the process and they are able to respond to the investigators truthfully and with facts. That would be one. Because even if we are trying to intervene here and there, but without that investigation telling us the status of Communicare, it becomes very difficult. Again, if we can try through the department to have that meeting with the province and the city of Cape Town, especially for the profiling of the tenants, and then we're able to see how SHRA can come to the board once we have that report. But there's also a recommendation here by one of the honorable members that, like the CEO said, maybe we need to encourage these tenants to use the legal aid as their legal representatives, so that they don't pay anything, but they are also able to get representation where there's an unfairness from the side of the landlord. They are able to get that representation in court. I'm not sure whether I've summarized properly, and I don't know whether DDG want to respond, or are you fine?
Chair. DM.
Oh, DM, you're back. Okay. DM?
No, I've been here, Chair. I have captured the recommendations of the honorable members and your summary, because I see on the platform that there is a comprehensive recommendation which is put there. And Chair, you would agree with me that by law, if you evict people, you must evict people to a structure or a place where they will be staying. You don't evict people to the streets of South Africa. And also, I take the point that the investigation must be expedited, and the investigation, we also support that it must be expedited, but you wouldn't want to have an investigation that will produce a report that has loopholes, because if an investigation is done by forensic and whoever, you can take that report to a review or whatever, just for delaying tactics. So your summary captures everything, and I think it gives us an instruction at the level of the department to go and do certain things. And Mr. Masemula and DDG Ngaka, I agree with them in their responses, but we will take the report back and the recommendations as they are, and also come back to the portfolio committee and bring a comprehensive report on this issue and what we have done and what needs to be done, if there will be anything that will be needed. So we are going to implement what the portfolio committee is saying. Chairperson, I don't have much to say because I don't want to dilute your summary. Your summary is instructive. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think the office of the portfolio committee secretary will also communicate with the department to make sure that we take the process forward. I think we are done with this item on Communicare. And let me thank you, Communicare, led by the CEO. Let me thank the department delegation, led by the minister and the deputy minister. And say the department, like the deputy minister said, they'll go and do what is required as per the decisions of the portfolio committee, and definitely will communicate with Communicare, take the process forward. Thanks very much. Other items don't need yourselves, but I see the CEO is on the platform. You want to say something, CEO?
Just to thank the committee for engaging with us and for listening to us. We appreciate that you have a role to play, and we also appreciate that you're going to help us get the department to produce a report that's reliable and and that can guide the way forward. So thank you.
Thank you very much. You can be released because the other items are in-house items. They just need the portfolio committee. The next item is a draft program. Secretary.
Yes, Chairperson. Let me apply to the draft program. Chairperson, here is the draft program. The draft program, we were supposed to start on the 28th of January, but because of the changes in the parliamentary program, we started yesterday with our work with the summit, which was successful, Chair. And today is this meeting with Communicare. So our next meeting will be on the 18th of February, where we will be doing the motion of desirability and follow up on the Harankua and Mamopane petitions, as well as Slovo Park. Then we will have a meeting on the 25th with the department and SHRA. And on the 11th of March, we'll have recommendations on progress made on recommendations on oversight that were made during oversight, KwaZulu-Natal and Northwest. And on Friday, the 13th of March, it's not confirmed yet. I'm still waiting for the response from the Office of the Chairperson of Commission for Gender Equality for that meeting. This meeting, Chairperson, is a referral that was made by the Speaker to us that the committee should consider this report and report it to the House as soon as this report is presented and the recommendations from the committee. Then on the 18th of March, it will be the department together with the entities, Chairperson, on the implementation of audit outcomes and plans of the department and entities to deal with those audit actions, and also the third quarter from the department, second and the third quarter. Then on the 20th of March, that will be the follow-up on Free State and Machabeng, and also on the petitions for Western Cape, Brede Valley, Stellenbosch, and Strand. Then the last meeting will be with Ndifunukwazi to present their work generally as well as DEG. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thanks very much. There is the draft program. Of course, it is not cast in stone. Always when there's a need, we change. But what I want to suggest, Secretary, is that we have an outstanding item with SHRA about their block project, with HDA about what are they going to do with the properties they've acquired. We need that report. And NHFC, since the new board was given a mandate by the minister to deal with issues that were raised. The other time we got a report that the CEO is suspended. We need NHFC to come and give the committee a report. And I would really recommend that those three need to be prioritized. Maybe the last meeting of the quarter, which is towards the end of March, if we can prioritize that, maybe Kufunakwazi will come either earlier or in the first quarter, in the new financial year. Can you look at that possibility?
Chair,
Yes.
on the 25th of February, the presentation by Shra on the on the blocked projects as well as the hijacked buildings is already. Can you see the meeting for the 25th of February?
Yes.
We can add the issue of the hijacked buildings because HDA will be presenting on the 25th of February. Yeah, there is the issue that you are raising, Chair.
Briefing by the Department of Human Settlements and the Social Housing Regulatory Authority on the plans to deal with blocked projects. Okay. Briefing by the Department of Human Settlements on the Housing Development Agency on progress made on the acquired. Okay. NHFC.
I can add NHFC Chair as well on that same meeting.
Please.
Thank you, Chair. I will do so.
Right, Honorable Frenchman.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, it's a request that I would like to make. Maybe from the committee secretary and our content advisor, just to give us an update of outstanding reports that we've been requesting as a committee. Or, for example, I've been requesting the forensic report from the minister. The committee secretary has emailed. I haven't received any feedback. Then also, the Western Cape Attorney General was supposed to, I asked for them also to come before the committee. Basically, all of the things that we as a committee asked for the past year, but we haven't received it. I don't know if this should be a presentation on its own or if they can just send it to us in a document via email. Thank you, Chairperson.
Can I understand the issue of Attorney General? What's the issue?
Chairperson, the Attorney General National told me that they can't give feedback on the City of Cape Town's audit outcomes.
Auditor General, Chair.
The Auditor General, yeah. And yeah, sorry, Chairperson.
General, I can
so they say that Western Cape needs to report on that.
All right. I think that's correct. I was just confused by Attorney General. Auditor General, I remember that.
Auditor General, yeah. Sorry, Chairperson, I'm confused, yeah.
Yes. I think we agree that the...
Chairperson, can I ask Ms. Frenchman to assist with the forensic report? Just explain so that the department officials that are here can get to understand as well. Exactly.
Yes, Madam Secretary, I asked the minister in like 2 or 3 meetings of ours, and then I also asked the secretary to again remind the minister of the 243Q forensic report in the City of Cape Town. It was supposed to be the city manager at the time in 2018 said that it will be made available to the public, but it hasn't been.
Was it done by the department? The forensic?
The forensic, yes, Chairperson, it was completed. It is there, but it hasn't been circulated. And we don't know why. The minister said that she will definitely, inquire about it and make it available to the committee.
Okay. I think Secretary and Content Advisor, in addition to what the Honorable Frenchman is saying, just audit our decisions as a committee, and we see where we're lagging behind, what was implemented and what was not implemented in terms of our decisions. accept it as a working document. That will guide us for now, but we know that it's not cast in stone. If something that needs the attention of the committee comes, we're able to put it in. Can I get a mover for the adoption of it?
I second, Chair.
Thank you very much. It is our working document. Can we move to the next item? Are there minutes that we need to look at?
Yes, Chair, there are 2 sets of minutes.
The minutes of the 26th November 2025, where we met with the department, briefing us about decentralization and the provincial readiness for floods. Can we scroll? Page 2, page 3, page 4, opening and welcome, apologies, adoption of agenda, opening remarks, the framework, scroll down, briefing on readiness by different provinces. Northern Cape, right, committee recommendations, maintain minimum stock levels, strengthen coordination, establish contingency funds, improve turnaround times. Let's scroll down. Enhance communication, integrated planning and risk reduction. Closure adjournment. Can I get, are there corrections? Subtractions, additions? Don't see any hand. Can I get a motion for the adoption of the minutes?
I move, Chair, for the adoption of the minutes.
Thank you very much. Honorable Abada.
I second, Chair.
Thank you very much. Can we look at the last set? Meeting of the 8th of December.
3, Chairperson.
Pardon?
3
The
December.
3rd of
Yes.
December. Sorry, my eyes. 3rd of December, where we had the next set of provinces briefing us about the readiness. Let's scroll down. Opening and welcome, apologies. Hence, opening remarks, briefing by provinces, Eastern Cape, Free State, KwaZulu-Natal, Western Cape, committee concerns, Right. Right. Continue. Scroll down. The meeting agenda at 1:30. Corrections, amendments, subtractions, additions. Nothing. Can I get a mover for the adoption of the minutes? Honorable Kakakilwe.
Chairperson, I move for the adoption of the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Abada.
I second, Chair.
Thanks very much. Both sets of minutes are adopted. Are there matters arising from the two sets of minutes? I'm putting them together because we're addressing the same readiness for the floods. Are there matters arising? Except to say, early this year, I think we experienced floods in Mpumalanga, Limpopo, and to a lesser extent, Northwest. But there was a joint meeting organized by the NCOP, and we were invited to that meeting to get a report of the extent and the plans to intervene. We're also invited for a joint physical oversight, but because of our financial situation, we could not go there because we tried to make sure that we save every cent to make sure that the study tour succeeds. But at some stage, we can still do this this oversight to do inspection on local, on what was on the devastation and the extent of intervention. If members are fine, then we can pass the item. What's the next item, Secretary?
It's closure, Chairperson.
Oh, thanks very much, honorable members. Thanks very much again to our PLOs for always being available. Thanks very much to our staff who are always there to assist us. Our next meeting will be on the 18th. And enjoy the rest of the week, and let's ready ourselves to receive the State of the Nation address by the President next week. Thanks very much. The meeting stands adjourned.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Chairperson.